When Stickman first stepped onto Mars, he thought it was just a giant red desert playground. He jumped, waved, and spun around, only to realize gravity here is just about 1/3 of Earth's. That meant every leap felt like he was in slow motion, which was fun at first, until he tripped and realized falling still hurts, just a bit slower. Welcome to Mars, Stickman, where every step is clumsy science in action. The first big problem Stickman faced was air, or rather, the lack of it. Mars's atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide, which is great if you're a plant, but terrible if you need oxygen to breathe. Stickman tried holding his breath, then tried sipping the air like a milkshake, before collapsing dramatically. Science fact: without a proper oxygen supply, Stickman wouldn't last even a few minutes. Time to build a habitat with real-life support. Next came the issue of warmth. Mars isn't just cold, it's freezing, with average temperatures hovering around -63 degrees Celsius. Stickman thought wearing 10 scarves would help, but no luck. He tried cuddling with a space heater, which immediately blew a fuse. The reality? Survival requires pressurized habitats with insulation and reliable energy. Solar panels could work, but dust storms on Mars can last for months, blocking out sunlight. Suddenly, Stickman realized this red adventure wasn't a camping trip. Of course, Stickman needed water. He first tried digging in the dirt, convinced there was a secret Martian well. Instead, he found nothing but dust and rocks. Then he looked at the ice caps in the distance and sighed. Science says water ice exists under the Martian soil, and it can be extracted by heating it. Stickman's solution? Point a giant magnifying glass at the ground. Result? Lots of smoke, zero water. Back to the drawing board, Stickman. Food was another comedy show. Stickman unpacked his space snack bag, ate all of it in one sitting, and instantly regretted it. That's when he learned about hydroponics, growing plants without soil using nutrient solutions. NASA has already experimented with this, even growing lettuce on the International Space Station. Stickman tried planting French fries in water, hoping for infinite fries. The experiment failed, but he learned something important. Farming in space is possible, but patience is key. Radiation was a danger Stickman didn't even see coming. Unlike Earth, Mars doesn't have a protective magnetic field, so solar radiation constantly bombards the surface. Stickman lay outside sunbathing, imagining he'd get a cool space tan, only to panic when he remembered this kind of radiation can damage cells and cause cancer. The science solution? Underground habitats or protective domes. Stickman's solution? Wear 50 layers of sunscreen. Spoiler, it didn't work. Energy was also a challenge. Stickman plugged in his phone charger only to realize there was no outlet on Mars. He tried pedaling on a bike to generate power, sweating inside his spacesuit. In real life, reliable Martian colonies would rely on solar arrays or even nuclear reactors for consistent energy. Stickman, however, discovered the hard way that pedaling to power an Xbox isn't sustainable. Mars requires innovation, not desperation. Communication was another headache. Stickman wanted to live stream his Martian dance moves, but every message took about 20 minutes to reach Earth. Imagine sending a text and waiting almost half an hour for a LOL reply. That's the reality of space communication. Distance matters. Stickman's frustration grew until he built a cardboard satellite dish out of trash, yelling into it like a megaphone. Unsurprisingly, Earth still didn't reply any faster. Then came the loneliness. Stickman sat inside his habitat, staring at the vast emptiness outside. No birds, no trees, no neighbors to argue with, just silence. Psychologist experts warn isolation on Mars could be as dangerous as the physical challenges. Stickman decided to draw faces on rocks and call them his new friends. "This is Rocky," he said, introducing his favorite stone. "Science says astronauts would need strong mental support systems. Stickman's solution? Rock therapy." After many failures, Stickman realized living on Mars wasn't about conquering the planet, but about working with science to adapt. Oxygen systems, hydroponic farms, protective shelters, and careful teamwork are all essential. He stood on the red horizon, imagining a colony filled with thousands of stickmen building a future. Sure, he still slipped and fell in the low gravity, but this time he laughed. Stickman knew Mars wasn't impossible. It was just waiting for the right mix of science and stickman stubbornness.
And after all the failures, failed friends, and troubled friendships, Stickman has finally learned one last thing. Surviving on Mars is hard, but surviving on YouTube without your support is even harder. So, if you enjoyed Stickman's silly science adventures, don't forget to like this video, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and share it with your fellow Earthlings. Together, we can build the first Stickman colony on YouTube. See you on the next mission.